Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. I want to welcome you all to the show today to recap a significant and magnificent weekend in UNLV sports. Really good times to be Rebel fans. I want to thank you guys for jumping on the spaces as we did post-game shows. I was in Arizona over the weekend at the BYU-Arizona State game, so I couldn't do a traditional Let's Run podcast, but we stepped up and we did spaces after those games. So after UNLV clinched the win over San Jose State, I went on and Masked Rebel and we talked football. We talked about the team. Big shout out to him. One of my favorite people to have on in spaces or on the show. Just a good guy, loves UNLV, is a true and knowledgeable fan. So thank you to him. And then last night, we did a Burner Brigade podcast. Those are more group kind of conversations. Usually I have to get on and talk a little bit to kind of get us going. I'm just kind of waiting for people to jump on. But once they get rolling, they're really fun. If you're listening to this show, specifically, we had a little bit of arguing going on in the show last night. And I want you guys to come on and talk. I don't really want them to become just like one-on-one arguments. So I will try and control those to make sure that those stay kind of on topic. And they don't get too angry or anything. I want them to be positive experiences. I did right after right after Fresno State lost to Colorado State. Or sorry, the other way around. Right after Colorado State lost to Fresno State, I did buy tickets to go up to Boise State for the Mountain West Conference Championship game. Obviously, the Rebels have to beat Reno this coming week in Reno Hate Week in order to get to the conference championship game. However, I felt pretty confident in buying those tickets. Ultimately, I come to find out that I had a final scheduled that day. There's nothing I can do about it. So, I love Boise. I really want to go. I'm kind of crushed that I can't get there, but it's okay. The Rebels control their own destiny now. We'll all be watching. It'll be really cold up in Boise. I'll go in the spring when it's a lot nicer. But just a ton going on right now. UNLV basketball beat New Mexico State in a win that was pretty frustrating for me as a watch. If you've been, listening to Burner Brigade or really just on UNLV Twitter in general, sentiments around the basketball team is probably, and there's good reason for it to be overly negative, but it's probably a bit overly negative at the moment, considering, Memphis, our loss, we really could have and possibly should have won that game based on our level of play. Memphis took down UConn today. That loss to Memphis is, I don't think, going to age poorly at all. I think that's going to be a quad one loss by the end of the year. And quad one losses don't hurt you. But UNLV takes down New Mexico State. We'll get into that a little bit. But first, let's talk about the Rebels, the UNLV football team, going on the road to San Jose and defeating the San Jose State Spartans. The game was incredibly difficult considering it was pouring rain. It was a torrential downpour for a lot of that game. All the players, the staff, everybody soaking wet, the ball soaking wet. UNLV in the first half had an absolute disaster. You had a pick six thrown by Hodge Malik Williams, a throw that he would love to take back. You have a muffed punt situation where the ball flew out of the back of the end zone and San Jose State got a safety. UNLV was in some serious trouble in this game. And credit to them. I mean, they came back and they, in the second half, just took control. The defense played very well. They held a very good passing attack in San Jose. Nick Nash, the San Jose star receiver, to only like one reception for 9 yards. If you look at their second half, San Jose, they didn't really score like at all in the second half. And it was incredibly impressive, just unbelievably impressive. San Jose got that safety, and UNLV went into the second half down 10-16. UNLV started out the second half with a field goal, and then a touchdown, and basically forced San Jose to punt on 5 possessions in the second half on every single one of those. So just a very impressive, gritty comeback style victory where everything was going wrong. It actually kind of looks similar to the way that Boise State won in San Jose State. Everything going wrong early and then kind of turning on the Jets and taking control of that game down the stretch. So we talked about it a lot on Friday night. It was really fun. And just a testament to this program, the Rebels have not won in San Jose, California against the Spartans since 1993. So that should tell you how how long we've had struggles with San Jose. San Jose came in at the end of last year and defeated the Rebels, kind of the main sign of our late season slide as last year ended in Barry Odom's first year. And the Rebels got revenge. I mean, they beat a solid San Jose State team, a tricky game to play up there. And just all credit to Barry Odom and those guys, and credit to Hodge, Malik Williams, and Jet Thomas had an incredible game. I thought the play calling was a lot better in the second half. It really felt like the staff and the players honed in and focused up and got a great win. But, none of it would have meant as much had Colorado State and Fresno State had that game gone the other way. Now, Fresno State had an excellent first half. After Colorado State had a great first possession, they went down and scored. Fresno State took over in the first half and went into halftime up 28-7. In the second half, Fresno State played the entire half not to lose. I don't know if they scored. They didn't score in the second half. Their play calling was ridiculous. They wouldn't run the ball. That game refused to end. But Fresno State did Rebel fans a massive favor by defeating Colorado State. If Colorado State would have made the Mountain West Conference championship game without playing the best teams, it would have been a very, very, very disappointing outcome. However, UNLV got a big break there. And, I don't want to say I feel sorry for Colorado State fans, but, they were undefeated in Mountain West play. And I harbor no ill will to them. They were doing everything they could. They loved their team and supported their team. But am I glad that the Rebels now control their own destiny and a path to the Mountain West Conference championship game? Absolutely, I am. The Rebels deserve another shot at Boise State. I know Boise State would have rather played Colorado State, and it's not necessarily because Boise State fans and Boise State media doesn't believe that Boise State will beat us. But Boise State lost a crazy game to Colorado State last year, and so I know they were kind of hoping to avenge that loss. And I know that Boise State would have rather played them. So that game, this is assuming that we beat Reno. I mean, it's rivalry week. I'm actually glad that it's rivalry week because I feel like it will focus the players up a little bit. The Fremont Cannon is easily the best trophy in all of college sports. Easily, it's not even close. And Reno is an opponent that just lost to Air Force at home. But they're going to give UNLV their best shot this weekend. Absolutely, they're going to come with everything they have. Jeff Choate, I think he's a bit of a loser. I don't like him as a coach. I think he's kind of bush league, but he does know how to motivate guys to play, and it's not going to be difficult for Choate to motivate his players to get up for this UNLV game. I think that this game could get dirty. I think it could be. I think you could see players trying to hurt each other. It's going to be the trash talk is going to be unreal. UNLV is going to have to be focused and going to have to come out with an energy to dominate this game from the tip. And do I think they will? Absolutely. And that's because UNLV just has a great run game. This is something that UNLV has been able to rely on since Barry Odom came to the Rebels. And hopefully they establish their will early and can put Reno away. Reno is currently 3-9, I believe. They have no wins in Mountain West Conference play. I will do a preview show for that game, just to make sure that we get up a good preview. Life has been incredibly busy this semester, and we're coming up to finals, so I'm trying to keep everything, in order. But Reno did only lose to Boise State 28-21 in Boise. That was a pretty impressive performance for Reno. Reno did beat Oregon State in kind of a crazy game. They put SMU at the beginning of the season to the brink. So Reno is, certainly last week against Air Force when they lost 22-19. That was one of the most pathetic performances I've ever seen from a college football team. But they have shown this year that they are capable of testing teams that they play. And so certainly the Rebels cannot look past Reno, and they won't because it's a rivalry game and because it means everything. And certainly the Rebels will have to come out with a focused effort to kind of take care of business and get a rematch with the Boise State Broncos. Now, I'm a fan kind of slash member of the media. Not really. I mean, I don't really consider myself a media member. I consider myself a fan that has a podcast that talks about the team. So players cannot look ahead. Players have to be focused on the game of the week, which I know the coaching staff will be giving it their absolute all to keep their players focused on this game. Not looking forward to a Boise State matchup. A Boise State team that barely beat Wyoming in Laramie. A Boise State team that is dealing with some inconsistent play from their quarterback, Maddox Madsen. A Boise State team on a short week this week playing Oregon State. An Oregon State team that just beat Washington State. Boise State's going to be vulnerable. I think the Rebels are going to win. I think the Rebels are going to win in Boise for the Mountain West Championship game. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. And I understand, again, I'm looking ahead here. But again, I'm not a player. I'm allowed to look ahead. If some fans don't want to have that mindset where they don't look ahead to other teams, I absolutely get it. Focus on Reno. But for me, the Rebels are just in a fantastic position. We are going to get the college football playoff rankings. UNLV is ranked 21st and 21st in the coaches and AP poll, respectively. I'm hoping they're 20 or 19. Tulane was ranked 18th, I believe, in the previous college football playoff ranking poll. UNLV needs to be as close to Tulane as possible because the Rebels, it's narrow. It's not likely. I don't want to act like the Rebels have control over their own destiny completely here because they don't. And to be fair, they shouldn't. If the Rebels had beaten Syracuse which the Rebels should have beaten Syracuse, by the way. The Rebels were the better team that night and had multiple opportunities to close that game out and just didn't. If the Rebels had beaten Syracuse, we'd be talking about a top 15 team in the country right now. But they didn't. So if the Rebels beat Reno and if the Rebels beat Boise State, there's going to be a legitimate argument between the Rebels and Tulane as to who should be the Group of Five representative in the college football playoff. Boise State probably will not be able to remain ranked ahead of UNLV if UNLV wins the Mountain West Conference Championship game on Boise State's home field. So that's the path. I mean, look, we're a ways away from that. But if UNLV can go up to Boise and beat Boise State, they could leapfrog Tulane and leapfrog Boise State and go in as the 12th seed in the college football playoff. Certainly the Big 12 would be very happy with UNLV if that happened because that would basically assure the Big 12 that they would get the fourth slot and the first round bye in the college football playoffs. So the entire Big 12 is rooting for UNLV. And Kansas in the Big 12 defeating BYU, Iowa State, and Colorado in consecutive weeks is making that win at the beginning of the year for UNLV look fantastic. So, I mean, it's big. I mean, it's crazy. Barry Odom's in his second year. We did kind of re-up him at the end of last year for his contract, but if I was the Rebels, I would try and get $4 or $5 million offer to Barry Odom to stay as our coach. If you're getting this money from the Mountain West Conference to stay in the Mountain West Conference, you cannot lose Barry Odom as a coach. Now, are we going to lose Brennan Marion, our offensive coordinator? Are we going to lose the go-go offense? We probably will. That's just the way college football goes. Brennan Marion, I do not expect to stay around. And I absolutely believe that retaining Barry Odom is the key. Now, are we going to keep Barry Odom for 10, 15 years? Probably not. Definitely not, actually. This is just the name of the game in college football. If Barry Odom stays at UNLV, he's going to continue to have success. And he will eventually leave for a bigger program. However, if we can lock him down for another 3 or 4 years, that will set up UNLV athletics for future success into the next couple of decades, to be honest with you. And so we need to pay Barry Odom. We're having college football playoff discussions uh, in late November. Even if the college football playoff discussions are a little far-fetched and not quite realistic in a lot of people's eyes, we are having them. And for that reason alone, Barry Odom deserves to be paid as much as any Big 12 coach, in my opinion, besides maybe Kyle Whittingham and Mike Gundy. So great times for UNLV football. I will preview the Reno game as the week goes on to make sure that we are up to date. The Rebels should be able to take care of business. I'm sure there's going to be a little nerves going into this Reno game for all the fans, and there should be because it's a rivalry game, and you never know what can happen in rivalry games. But I have full confidence in this staff to keep his guys focused, and I cannot wait for the next couple of weeks as Rebel fans. It is fantastic. Let's talk some basketball. So UNLV, since we last talked, UNLV defeated. I believe they played. Who did they play before? So they played Nebraska, Omaha, and then Pepperdine. They won those two games. We talked about that. The Pepperdine game was their best effort of the season. Now, is Pepperdine a great team? No, but the Rebels looked pretty good in that game. They defeated a feisty but not spectacular New Mexico State team. New Mexico State is certainly a team that they're pretty physical. They've got a little bit of size on the perimeter. Robert Carpenter, Emmanuel Tishmunga, or whatever. But it's not a world beater type team. However, defeating New Mexico State, just because that program isn't a complete doormat style program, they were ranked about 150 in KenPom when we played them. That was a good win. The Rebels dealt with some issues on the boards. Certainly, New Mexico State got way too many chances to score, and it was kind of frustrating because the officiating, the game just was not a clean game. The teams were kind of beating each other up. New Mexico State specifically was trying to do absolutely everything they could to bully physically the Rebels, and they almost did it. You know, you got to give them a little bit of credit for coming into the Thomas and Mack and trying to push us around. Ultimately, DJ Thomas, 15 shots is probably a bit too much for him, but he did go 13, and he did only go 13 of 19 from the free throw line. You'd like to see that number come up a little bit. However, DJ Thomas and especially Jalen Hill, I thought this was maybe Jalen Hill's finest game as a Rebel. Just a great effort from him. Good defensively. He was good. He was good on the boards. 30 of 42 from the free throw line. You'd like to see that number go up a little bit. Overall, the Rebels were out-rebounded 45-41. They gave up 21 offensive rebounds, which was just kind of absurd. And that led to a lot of second-chance points for the Aggies. But, you know, the Rebels are missing Rob Whaley. Now, what is the status of Rob Whaley? Because this is kind of one of the big talking points and one of the big worries around UNLV basketball right now. Rob Whitley was essentially a non-factor in the Memphis game. He's been a non-factor all year. He is dealing with some back issues. They have taken some pretty good steps to try and address these issues and get him ready to play. Rob loves UNLV. You know, he loves being here. He loves the coaches. I don't know what his future is. I hope that he is ready for this Thanksgiving tournament. If Rob is not playing in this Thanksgiving tournament that we are coming up on, then I would be a little bit worried just for his year, because it would be a lot of games that he would have missed early in the season. And do I think that Rob would be willing to take a redshirt year? It's possible, you know. I mean, he wants to have a full year. He wants to have a good year. He's worth a lot, and he certainly should not be, you know, flippant with his college basketball career. So the Rebels are heading down to Tempe, Arizona, to play in this it's called the Arizona Tip-Off Challenge, I believe, the Arizona Tip-Off Tournament. Their first game is going to be against a nationally ranked Mississippi State team. That game will be on Thursday. It will be on Thanksgiving. If the Rebels win that game, they will play either Butler or Northwestern. If they lose that game, they will play either Butler or Northwestern. Again, another pretty solid opponent. I don't know what Butler's ranks. I know that Mississippi State's a top 25 team in Ken Palm, and so Mississippi's 24th in Ken Palm. Uh, Butler is 69 in Ken Palm, so that would be a quad two game, I believe. And then is Northwestern is 61. So Rebels get a guaranteed quad one game against Mississippi State, and then a possible quad two game against Northwestern. This will be a great early season shine for the Rebels to see how they, we'll basically know who these Rebels are in non-conference this weekend. It'll be games back to back, and then we'll have the Reno games. So a huge weekend for the Rebels, a huge weekend in Rebel sports. And it's kind of gut check time for this team. Is Rob Whaley going to play? How is the team's defense going to look? Jaden Henley's not going to play. We know he's out with his foot injury, which is a bummer. Is Jace Whiting going to play? I think the backup point guard position. I think we need him. Even if some Rebel fans disagree, I think Jace is a great player, and I think we absolutely need him in our roster to stabilize their backup point guard position. And I certainly believe that he deserves a good shot. He's been injured all year. If you haven't been impressed with him, believe me, I'm sure he hasn't been happy with how things have gone so far too. But he's a baller. He's a good player. I certainly believe that he will, and he does deserve playing time and will get it. And this weekend will be a good show and a good test for how UNLV Hoops is. So I'm hoping to do a preview show with the Rebellion podcast. Hopefully we can get together. We're going to probably do it on my channel, I think. But we'll give you a rundown of Mississippi State and kind of what you can expect from this Thanksgiving tournament. Mississippi State's a good team, man. I mean, they're excellent. Mississippi State is coming into the season. They're undefeated at this time. I believe they're 5-0. They beat. I'm sorry, I got to sneeze. I apologize for that. They beat a pretty good Utah team, 78-73. They won at SMU. Really good wins for this Mississippi State team. So it's going to be a good test. This is a big year for Kevin Kruger. And although the sentiment around UNLV basketball is overtly negative, the RUN Rebels have the whole world ahead of them. They have every capability of proving that they are a good team. Currently in the Mountain West, there's kind of three tiers. There's the top five. Reno is probably the best team in the Mountain West, alongside Utah State. Those two, you can make arguments for either one. Then there's a little drop. Boise State hasn't been quite as strong as I thought they were going to be this year. They almost lost to a tricky South Dakota State team today. San Diego State has looked a little rough offensively. Now, that's not uncommon for them, but certainly San Diego State does not look as strong as they have in years past. And then, obviously, New Mexico. New Mexico has a great win over UCLA. However, they did lose to St. John's in pretty convincing fashion. So, moral of the story is we just don't really know how good these teams are yet. And that's the top five. But Colorado State and UNLV are in the next tier. Now, Colorado State has an awful loss to, I think it was UC Riverside. They lost at home in overtime to UC Riverside. So just a terrible loss for them. And it was at the buzzer. I mean, it was pretty embarrassing. San Diego State has only played 3 games so far. It's pretty wild. They play tomorrow against Creighton. I would probably put them in 5th right now. They don't really have any great wins, but that program just gets the benefit of the doubt at this time. They're going to play some good competition. They're going to play Creighton, Oregon. They play at Fresno State, which is interesting in early December. So that'll be an early interesting conference game. But that's kind of your top 5. Utah State, Reno, San Diego State, Boise State, and Boise State and New Mexico. Then the next tier is UNLV and Colorado State. UNLV, I think, has the clear lead over Colorado State at this current time. And then there's the bottom tier of the Mountain West. So UNLV basketball this week, an impressive showing in this Arizona tip-off tournament, I think gives them a chance to vault into that top 5. Certainly they could have and maybe should have beaten that Memphis team, and that loss is not quite as bad as I thought in retrospect. Memphis is a very good team. And so just a fantastic time to be a Rebel fan. I want to thank you guys for checking out the show and get you out of here early. I wanted to make sure that this got up on the feed so that everybody that gets these podcasts through emails can listen. I'll post it on Twitter as soon as possible. But just have a great week, guys. Make sure you post as much Reno trash talk as you can. Let the little school up north feel its inferiority and its weakness and how much it sucks. Let them know. Let them know. Don't cross any lines, but let them know how worthless they are. I appreciate you all. Let's just enjoy this time as Rebel fans. It only comes around once a year, and right now things are looking very good. Appreciate you all, and let's run.